Howdy folks, welcome to TravyJsSpace here on YouTube. Welcome to another fabulous, fun, intriguing, thought-provoking episode of Let's Talk, where we just talk. No games, no distractions, no problem. So for today's episode, I am very excited for this one. This is something that I personally am a huge fan of. I'm pretty sure I have mentioned it in the past, very briefly, but of course I've never had the outlet to kind of discuss it further and in greater detail and kind of share my thoughts and views on it. So today we're going to be talking about the monarchy, the British royal family, and more specifically, kind of about King Charles and the future, King Charles III, I should say, and his future as king, and about the passing of Queen Elizabeth, and just basically a lot of everything. So let's just jump right into it. So to begin, I do want to talk about the Queen's passing first and foremost, which was a great tragedy, just globally and around the world for a great majority of people that had a lot of love and respect and loyalty to the Queen. I being one of those people, I've been a monarchist and just deeply intrigued and just have this insatiable desire of knowledge about not just the modern royal family, but dating back as far as King Henry VII, who was the first Tudor in the Tudor dynasty. He's the one who became king, the last king actually to become king through victory in combat. So he had, in the War of Roses, and then when he became king, he really started a brand new kind of reinvigorating kind of, brought that reinvigorating feeling and vibe back into the country. He was making the country a lot of money. They were becoming really, really wealthy and powerful in the world. He was very big on having statements or physical statements, kind of like his logo, if you will, modern terminology. His logo created and placed all throughout the land, which was the Tudor Rose. He got married to Elizabeth of York, who was a Yorkist, and King Henry VII was Lancastrian, I believe. I could be wrong. Please correct me if I am, because I hate to get it wrong. And their symbols, or their kind of monogram of sorts, were both two different roses, the red and the white. So when they got married, they kind of created this this bond that was kind of revolutionary, just kind of shocking for the time. And so when he became king, it was just platformed on this sense of, unity and peace and just thriving financially, economically, politically. So yeah, that's what intrigued me. Anything further back, I was never really all that interested in. I've tried to go deeper back. Hasn't really caught my attention, or I feel like I'm an old soul. So I mean, I've lived many lives before, and I think maybe my first life was somewhere around that time period, because anything prior to that I don't find much of a relation to, other than Vikings. When I've watched the show The Vikings, I felt that's the only other time further back that I felt a strong, oh, I've been there, whoa, this is comforting, whoa, like I'm getting memories that are not from this life. So there's that. But when it comes to the British royal family and the monarchy as a whole, it starts with Henry VII for me, and then all the way up. So for me, it's, not just about Queen Elizabeth II or Charles or Kate, William, all of that. It goes much further back, and there's a very deep love and admiration for what they do and how they do it, and just the kind of sacrifices they have to make in their lives, their personal lives, to put duty first. I'm very old-fashioned that way. I'm very attracted to people that have a strong sense of duty and nobility, and are willing to sacrifice so many comforts just to do the right thing, or what they feel is the right thing for them, depending on their occupation or their morals, beliefs. That's something that really attracts me to a person, whether it's just a friend or a lover. So in saying that, I would definitely openly and willingly date any one of the Queen's guards, or any of those military men over there, because the loyalty, the honor, the nobility, the bravery, just everything, just the ceremonial kind of traditional sense that they have over there still, all of that is just something that makes me drool. I love it, and I just think it's really commendable and admirable. So yeah, that's what kind of draws me to it. And I think especially with Queen Elizabeth II, she had such a strong sense of duty that the whole world will remember her by, whether they were a fan of her in the family or not. There's no denying that she was an extremely inspirational and motivational icon of her time. Of course, she was never meant to be queen. Her uncle was the first monarch in history to abdicate the throne, which basically means give up the crown and not be king, which then automatically passed down to his younger brother, King George VI, who was Elizabeth's father. And he was not prepared to be king. He wasn't raised that way. In the royal family, each child, the firstborn, is kind of brought up with a different educational system. They're brought up with a different way of raising techniques. They're brought up different, and rightfully so that they can be prepared, ready, and kind of not be so scared or unprepared when it comes to filling the shoes of their role in the establishment. So I don't think it's something they oh God, where was I going with this? I don't think it was something Queen Elizabeth ever thought, or Princess Elizabeth at the time ever thought, would be thrown in her lap, her father's lap anyways at first, which of course her mother, Elizabeth's mother, was very upset about, but her father stepped up. He did what he had to. He learned very quickly what an heir to the throne would have to learn over many years of youth and teenage years. He learned in a very short period of time, which of course a lot of that he already knew, being second in line. He probably had similar teachings, just not as prioritized. But he stepped up and he really got the job done, and he did so much good for the country and the morale and the people, and just an incredible, so even Queen Elizabeth II's father, an incredible influence, an incredible just pinnacle icon of the time. And still to this day, if you want to read a story about true honor and nobility and perseverance, and integrity, that's definitely a story that you'd like to read if you like to see that kind of success story. But Queen Elizabeth II, she lived such a great long life, and again stepped up to the part and filled the shoes much early on. She was I always get this wrong. It's either 21 or 25. I think it's 25, because I'd always say, I think it's 25 she became queen, because I'd always say to myself, wow, I'm 25. I don't think I could handle being a monarch at this age, running a whole country and Commonwealth, a bunch of other countries across the globe. But of course, Elizabeth was trained for this as a young girl when her uncle abdicated. She, again, like George, was having to have a reverted upbringing. Everything had to change. she was forced to do so much more harder work and studying and lessons and stuff like that. So, but she took it on with a brave face, a stiff upper lip, and just got on with it, as they say. That's the family motto. Get on with it, you know? You pocket away your fears and you get the job done, which I think is really admirable. It's something I've always just been in awe of, that that kind of duty is something that she was able to take hold of and say, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it right, and I'm not going to let anything get in my way. And, you know, of course, there are some repercussions to that, that she was willing and able and successfully, I gather, able to process and go through, you know, with emotions and that, you know, a monarch. Now, okay, and people tell me this all the time, and they always say there's many misconceptions, and one of them I hear a lot is, you know, there's no purpose. The queen has no purpose. She's nothing. Her job is nothing. It's meaningless. She's just pomp. She's royal. Thinks she's better than everyone else. Not the case. A monarch, you know, a queen or a king, is a step above parliament. They're there to ensure that parliament isn't overstepping any boundaries, abusing the public, abusing their power, or, you know, taking things to extremist levels within the country's laws or rules or stuff like that. So the prime minister has a monthly meeting, I think monthly. See, again, my brain, short-term memory is not very good, and the long-term memory is starting to fade a little bit. Unfortunately, it's very frustrating, because I did know such a lot, and I could just answer it like that. But anyways, roughly I would say, I think it's once a month that the prime minister would have an audience with the queen, and the queen would ask certain questions about major topics or changes or things going on in her country, and getting the prime minister's point of view, you know. So what do you think about that? What do you think you're going to do about that? What direction are you going to take? And then it's also an opportunity for the prime minister to then ask the queen questions and say, you know, I'm unsure what to do. Would this be right? Do you think that I should take this route, or would it be beneficial to the people to do this? And then the queen would give her suggestions. But the queen has to stay impartial. She's a neutral position, so she can't have any hands in the politics. She can't say, you need to pass this law, or you shouldn't pass this law. That's something the queen cannot do. So there are certain things, you know, that a monarch cannot do. They can't just do anything they want and run around and spend money and live lavishly. That's actually just kind of ignorant to think, but without doing any research. But they have a much powerful, stronger, important role, you know, because if there was no one above the prime minister to help delegate these things, the prime minister could abuse power or could get very lost without someone to ask questions to guide them, to help them out. And so that's why the queen was there, and she went through in her lifetime, I'm almost certain it was 15 prime ministers that she worked with. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. There was one point in history where they abolished the monarchy for a short time. I want to say it was Charles the First, because there was King James the First, who was Elizabeth the First's nephew, Mary Queen of Scots' son. He was the next in line when Queen Elizabeth the First died. He took it, and then his son, I think either Charles the First, or James the Second, one of the two, took the throne, but he really abused his power. See, he did what a monarch shouldn't be doing. At that time, there was a sense of, there wasn't even prime ministers in that at the time, I'm pretty sure. So then that's when Oliver Cromwell came around, and there was a big revolution. There was that king, either again Charles the First or James the Second, was hung at his palace where he was hiding out in the Isle of Wight. for kind of pulling a Marie Antoinette of sorts, which I know it sounds unfair to say because I love Marie Antoinette and I feel like she's really misunderstood. There's a lot of layers there. But in the way of the similarity I'm referencing due to, you know, spending lavishly and letting the people go poor and without food and certain things. So he kind of played that card. He wasn't very smart with his money and, or with the country's money and stuff like that. So yeah, the public was encouraged to fight back by this Oliver Cromwell with the revolution and that. And then when he was killed off, he became prime minister and they didn't have a monarch. That only lasted a short time. Now, I can't say how long because I can't remember. I want to say 10 years. I think it was less than that, where it was the people that came together as a whole and said, no, we don't like this. We need a king. We need a queen. We need someone. We can't go without. This isn't right. We don't feel normal. You know, so it was the people that demanded that the monarchy be reinstated in their country. And that's when Charles II, I want to say, or James II. See, I'm getting the names mixed up, but I definitely encourage you guys to look up the history. It's just such an interesting story. It's really captivating and just mind-blowing to read. But they found the next heir in the Stuart dynasty and had him as the king. And everyone was so much happier. Oliver Cromwell was, I can't remember what happened to him after that. But after that, that's where we start to see in history a monarch and then a parliament. Whereas before, say earlier on in Elizabeth I's reign during the mid 1500s to early 1600s, or I'd say more early 1500s to early 1600s, she was the be-all end-all. There was just a monarch. So that's where they had a lot more power and a lot more purpose in that. It doesn't mean monarchs do not have purpose now. It just means that back then there was a time where the monarch did have full reign and full control, laws and religious control and all this other kind of stuff. But then they would have their council. So the queen would meet with her councilmen and they would be the power behind the power, you know, so to speak. They'd be the one to influence and say to the queen, you know, Your Majesty, I do believe that the taxes should be lowered by 5% in order to appease the da-da-da. And the queen would, you know, all right, I say so. I agree, you know, approved. So, yeah, so it was after that time that we start to see the prime minister and stuff. So the queen, you know, that big misconception that, you know, the queen or a monarch doesn't have any power and their role is pointless and it's overrated and it's just old school. It should be taken out, you know, she has no purpose. It's, to me anyways, when I hear that, I just hear ignorance because there is a lot more than meets the eye. And that's why I always encourage people to do their homework and just learn about it. You know, it's not shameful to say, I don't know actually if the queen has power or not. You know, just go and learn something new. Because, you know, you'll find that maybe you were wrong or you were just kind of following a trend or everyone else says it, so I guess it must be true. And especially in this modern day and world where everyone's just kind of following the leader when it comes to trends or what to believe is right, what to believe is wrong. You know, no one kind of free thinks and has their own opinions on things, and regardless of others' reactions and stuff. So it's really important in this day and age to do your homework and read a book, many books, like I did, and learn what you can. In saying that, it's very hard to be an open, proud monarchist in this day and age. And it's very heartbreaking and kind of discouraging at times. Because there are a lot of people that just don't, again, like I said, don't see the point and kind of live in this idea of ignorance and but is sometimes generational, just passed down from other generations, which is another misconception that the royal family costs England and the Commonwealth, which we're a part of in Canada, part of that Commonwealth, that we cost, or they cost us a lot of money. this isn't entirely true. In fact, not true at all. The royal family has been very forthcoming with making certain documentaries on the inner workings of the royal family and the monarch, of certain heads of the royal family, senior members, you know, Prince Charles, now King Charles, but Prince Charles at the time, Camilla, the Princess Royal, Princess Anne, the Queen's only daughter. They're very forthcoming with showing just how hard they work and letting the cameras in for a day in the life and breaking down the facts so people aren't, you know, being ignorant and just getting mad for no reason and starting a ruckus, you know, on baseless facts. So it's not like they're trying. They're trying to get their message out there. They're trying to communicate with the people that listen. You know, it's not what you think. Here's our lives. You know, we're trying to accommodate your questions or your concerns, or we're trying, but people just don't want to listen. But yes, when it comes to the royal family and how much they cost taxpayers every year, I can remember watching a documentary on the Queen and her finances and how much like of a boss she is for having all these business arrangements and certain property owings and the money she would get all on her own, certain things that she went to work for and purchase and invest in, and so that the royal family would continue to see a steady, hefty income profit coming their way. She did a lot of work. She really ensured that. However, because of that, because of her creating all these avenues for hefty profit around the world, the British people, the Canadian people, the Commonwealth people, we don't, together collectively, I think they said in that documentary, each British citizen anyways pays about £1.60 something each year, which really is nothing. I think Canadian, that's like $2, $3, maybe max $3 a year that comes out of our taxes to pay the royal family for whatever reason. So I mean, it's really nothing. And if, I don't know, for me personally, I feel like when people are fighting about that, saying that's not, even with presented with the facts, you know, it's only $3, sir, and they're still, oh well, that's too much. It just, I don't know, it just seems silly to me. It seems very just kind of ignorant and big-headed, and some people just love a good fight. They love a good argument. They love to be mad at things and just don't like voice of reason. They're stuck in their ways, and that's that. So be it. But that's, yeah, again, another big misconception. So yeah, love the Queen. I'm really sad about her passing. I was a hot mess. I was in a very delicate, fragile, and emotional state when she passed away. Yeah, it was not easy because I've been following her and, well, the whole family, like I said, every detail, every event, every outing, you know, every fundraiser and ceremony, traditional ceremony and stuff that's happened for many years now, through a reputable YouTube channel that captures all the footage, which is really, really helpful to have. And especially with her having her Platinum Jubilee this year, it was most especially for me important to consciously be watching every step of that. It was very sad too to see that literally the day before she was greeting the Prime Minister, the new Prime Minister, 15th Prime Minister, Liz Truss, at her Scottish Highlands summer retreat, Balmoral. It was really hard to see all that, and it for me personally, I feel like, and I always kind of figured that I'd feel a certain way when she passed, and I feel like I wasn't wrong, where when she did pass, there was this sense of loss, not just with the Queen, but with the old world. You know, she was the last link in that chain between all of this modernity and progression, all these changes and modifications happening to society and everything like that. But she was the last link to the old world, you know. And for me, being an old soul, that's really important, to have old links or connections to things of the past that I can relate to and understand and feel a sense of comfort in. So it really kind of provoked a sense of feeling a lack of purpose, I guess. Trying to find the right words, but it really felt like there was a loss. There was a part of me that died inside, you know. And I've always said that if the monarchy were to be abolished in my lifetime, I would just cease to exist. You know, I'm a very loyal person, not just with the monarchy, but with anything I feel strongly about or I encourage or I support. I'm loyal, and I will stay loyal, ironclad till the end. And the monarchy, the royal family, and from everything I've learned and read about, studied, etc., and have appreciation and gratitude for, that one's a big one, you know. So I mean, I guess I'm in a position where, as you guys already know, I've explained it in a previous video, that I don't necessarily, I guaranteed, it's inevitable that I won't live a long life. It will be a much shorter life than most people would expect from someone. For me, I'm at peace. It's okay. It's not something I worry or fear about. I'm very spiritual, so I'm you know, I'm very much okay with it. And I'm almost more okay with it when things like this happen, when I start to realize that the world, parts of the world I'm familiar and okay with, are starting to also die off. I feel like it's just meant to be, and it starts to kind of correlate with my own timeline, that, you know, all of these things are expiring, but yet so am I, and that's okay. And it's meant to be. It's all kind of in a parallel motion where things are starting to correlate together, you know. So if it were to ever happen, I would be devastated, but like I say, I don't think I'll live to see that, which, thank the gods and goddesses. And if it did, then I would hope that I wouldn't live too long after that, because I would not be okay. Because there's already so many things that have changed and have got beyond my means of understanding or accepting or agreeing with in recent times, just with pop culture and society and all of that other stuff, and just morals, values, respect, just endless conversation, you know, human dynamics, you know, how people talk, humanity as a whole, really. So, I mean, the Queen dying was like another tick in that, a big chunk, and it all makes sense when I think about my life and how short it'll be in comparison to how these things are all changing the world, and how that's affecting me as an old soul, and how I'm, like, again, like I always say, the penguin in South America. Like, it's getting hot here, any hotter, and I'm just gonna friggin' fall over, and I kind of would rather just fall over at this point, you know. So, but anyways, enough of that. Lastly, what I want to talk about is King Charles III. Dun, da, da, da. So I'm really excited. I think I'm kind of in the same boat as a lot of the other royal biographers and royal historians that I watch, reputable historians and stuff, biographers, people that have worked within the establishment, things of that nature. I agree with them when they say that time will tell. Now, I love Charles. I've always been a huge admirer and extremely inspired and motivated by his own personal fights against certain things. Like, he's always been a promoter of environmental causes ever since he was my age, you know, back in the 70s, where he'd get laughed at. People would make fun of him for suggesting that we should switch to paper materials paper straws, and removing plastics, and recycling, you know, and planting more plants and doing organics. He got laughed at in the 70s, but he never let it discourage him. It was always his mission, so he kept doing that up until, and still today. The last biography I watched on him, he let the cameras in for a year, and that's all he was doing. He was going to the coral reef taking, you know, what little time he has to himself out of his busy schedule to check up on, you know, the coral reef, to see how that's going, to learn about it, to understand what's going on, what's changing, what needs to be done to revert the damage. He's a very admirable individual, you know. He's just, his passion for the environment is just so, I just love him. Huge. So I think myself, I've heard a few people throw in the term environmentalist king. I really think he will be that that kind of king for England and the Commonwealth. He just recently, I think in the past couple of years, finally after I think 10 years of trying to accomplish this, converted all of England's agriculture to organic, which is incredible. And such a feat, you know, but of course that's the stuff that doesn't make the news, and sadly the scandals and the rumors, the unsavory rumors is what reaches the cell phones of the modern youngsters out there. So all they think is that he's just some pomp, you know, royal, unnecessary character that's, you know, destroyed Diana and this and that. So it's very frustrating, because I see one side of Charles. I see what he's actually doing, and a lot of us that are monarchists, we see and we take the time to research and dig out the good news and the good work and the stuff to be appreciated for. We see that, but then of course the majority of the world is just hooked and addicted to sensationalism and scandal. So one tiny little rumor, boom, everyone just believes it as fact, and now he's vilified. It's very sad. But it is what it is, I guess. And I mean, I don't like it, and I don't follow any of those. I am not a follow the herd kind of guy. Never have been. And it's much harder in this day and age now to be that kind of person, because people just disregard you and they think that, whatever. But this is about Charles. And I gotta say, I mean, yes, he's got some big shoes to fill, and a lot of people, again, royal commentators and biographers and that, historians, they have all said the same thing. You know, he's got very big shoes to fill. But I think he will be a moderately successful king. You know, I think he'll do a lot of good. I think he'll do a lot of modernization in ways of slimming down the senior royal members' workload, and making certain palaces that have been private for centuries open to the public as museums and such. He's really big on living simple. He likes the country life. He doesn't like to live in big giant palaces. He's a little bit different from that sense of the old world where there's pomp and ceremony and tradition. He wants to kind of get away from what I gather anyways. I don't know if this is what he really wants to do, but from all the insider reports and again, commentators, royalists and all this stuff, it sounds as though he wants to break off from parts of that, but not entirely. He wants to find a happy medium where they can keep tradition flowing, that has been around for hundreds and hundreds of years, which I would hate to see be stripped from any of their ceremonies or events in the future. But he wants to find that healthy medium so they can hopefully try to re-identify and incorporate themselves in the youth of today. So I hope it works. I really do. I have a lot of good hope and faith in him and Camilla. I love Camilla. I know there's a lot of still like this bitterness and resentment from the Diana stuff, but it's been over 25 years. I really think people need to let that go. And you know, I've always said I think if Diana did live, I think she would have been able to bury the hatchet at one point or another, maybe around like 2000 something. I'm sure she would have. We would have seen pictures of her and Camilla side by side with Charles and William and Harry in certain photo shoots for the family, you know, Kate and William's wedding. I'm sure Diana would have been there with Camilla and played nice and shown that they're amicable and okay together, you know. I don't think Diana was the kind of person, she didn't have the heart of holding grudges and resentments and anger. I'm sure she would have led a beautiful life when she broke away, and if she had lived. But I think on top of that, she would have made her made amends, and Camilla too, and they would have came together for the kids, and just for the future of the monarchy, and to ensure that her kids would have a future too, because William will be king one day, and I think that will be an incredible new era too. Charles, I don't think will be as over the top and spectacular and life-changing and stuff, but I think when William and Kate become king and queen, that there will be some wild changes and incredible amounts of restored and new appreciation and love for the monarchy. That I hope anyways. I hope it lasts for hundreds and hundreds more years. Sorry, just an old soul wishing for the best, hoping for the best. Trying to keep the past alive here. Well, anyways, that's basically all I really wanted to say about the monarchy and the royal family, and kind of why I see it the way I see it, why I love it the way I do, why I have such deep gratitude and appreciation and loyalty to them, and not just them as in the modern royal family, but all the way back. Queen Elizabeth I is probably one of my biggest inspirations in life. Just how being a woman and running a country, she was the second female monarch, second queen in British history to ever be on the throne. Her older sister, Queen Mary I, being the first queen. That didn't go so well. Definitely look that up. Read that story. That's where Bloody Mary comes from. She murdered a lot of Protestants. Anyways, but yeah, I love them all, and I will always be a huge monarchist. I will always support them and have their backs, and always hopefully find an opportunity to maybe help teach people the truth when they exhibit ignorance and just negativity about it based off scandal, and rumor and stuff, and treating it like truth. I always try to wiggle my nose in, but it can be very dicey territory, and I get shot down a lot, so yeah. And there isn't much room for reason in this day and age. It's just yes or no, right or wrong, cancel this person. No tolerance, no lenience. It's just you're in or you're out. So I'm neither. I'm my own island, okay? And I don't need anybody's approval or opinions or anything. I mean, I'm a sucker for good perception. I like getting into deep philosophical conversations and getting into different theories and what we think, what we wonder, and how we believe or what we believe and stuff. I like those conversations, but they're kind of a rarity these days. But thankfully, we have Let's Talk. Where at least I can get the conversation started. And then, like I always say, get down in the comments below, share with me your point of view, your perception, what you're thinking. Maybe you learned something today you want to reflect on and have more questions about. Yeah, drop it below. I would love, especially with the British royal family, I am a full treasure trove of facts and knowledge on it. So I would be more than happy. I would be just eager to answer your questions and hopefully, change your opinion, or hopefully not change your opinion, but shed some light on areas that you weren't so sure about with the royal family. All right, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you guys, each and every one. I'm very grateful that you tuned in to today's episode, and I hope to see you all again next time. Now, also, before I say goodbye, make sure to also, I always say this, drop below if you have any topics of interest that you want it to be discussed on Let's Talk. Maybe some news or new game releases, anything that you could think of that's worth talking about and maybe should have a platform to start a conversation, drop it below. Please, I encourage you. Please do. I will look at it, I will write it down on my notes, and we will talk about it in the next episode. All right. Toodles for now. Ta-ta. Ciao. Until next time. Howdy, folks. Did you like that video? Well, then why don't you go ahead and give that thumbs up a smackaroo. Don't want to miss out on the next episode? Give the subscribe button some love and make sure to turn your notifications on. That way I can give you a bell ring, let you know dinner is served. Still need more to chew on? Take a bite of my new YouTube Instagram account at TravyJsSpace to keep up to date with the channel's inner workings and news of upcoming projects and episodes. Thanks for watching. See you next time.